Hi, I'm Eric, and this is Going Deep, a show where I talk to actors, writers, musicians, directors, content creators, creatives of all kinds to learn more about them and their craft. Before I talk about the guest of this episode, I wanted to thank Tim Mojica for not just letting us film at his apartment, but also helping me set everything up and operating the camera. This episode would not have been possible without him. I sat down with singer, songwriter, rapper, and producer Dashifyze. I think you're really going to enjoy this interview. She is smart, talented, insightful, thought-provoking, and we talk about so much. We get into what made Dasha go from writing songs in her notebook to actually recording and releasing them. We gush over our mutual love of Tyler the Creator and Mac Miller, and she touches on spirituality, greater callings, becoming a multi-hyphen powerhouse, and how music can help mental health. So, to hear all of that and more, check out this episode. Yeah. Well, this is cool. This is great that we're finally doing this. I know we talked about it like a while back. And
long time in the making.
Yeah, and this is our first, we got Tim here. We have Althen. It's like a packed house. We have an audience
Full
here.
house,
Yeah.
Truly.
We have an audience here, so don't mess up. That's more for me, because at least one time I'll say something wrong. I'll be like, asparagus, and they're like, it's asparagus. I'm like, whatever. But anyway.
Listen, English is not my first language.
It is though for me though.
I still mess up. No, but it's just like saying anyone can mess up at any time.
I still like saying espresso espresso when it's espresso.
For the longest time, I thought epitome was a separate word from epitome, but then I realized no, there is no epitome. It's just epitome, but it's just spelled. There's no epitome with a Y at the end. It's just epitome with the E, and I was like, when someone told me that, I was like, oh, it should be though. It should be two words.
Yeah. So you said English is your first language. You were born in
Illinois.
Oh, Illinois.
Yeah,
okay.
good old Midwestern.
Yeah, that's cool. Then you moved to, you spent a little time in New York, right, before going to Jersey?
So what had happened was, I was overseas between St. Petersburg, Russia, and Riga, Latvia, and my brother was in university in Arizona, so we'd spend, a couple months there, a couple months overseas, a couple months back, and then when we finally moved into, an American home, I guess, what is a home in New York, right? Everything, it could be anywhere, but someone's, house condominium in Brooklyn, Sheepshead Bay, the Russian part of Brooklyn, shout out. And yeah, we, were renting space there, and then we moved to the burbs, because that's what Karens do. And West Orange, yeah.
Cool.
Been there.
For a while, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you were, or are, a classically trained pianist? Pianist?
Yes.
Pianist?
Yeah, one of those words,
yeah,
I never know.
But when did you learn? I assume pretty young?
Yeah, so my parents were like, listen, you could dabble and do your thing, but we want you to be, if you're going to do it, you really should learn it. Okay. And my dad, he knew someone, in his, I don't even know the translation to English, but it's the outside part of the projects in Russia, but an apartment complex, whatever projects equivalent. And they knew each other, they went to high school together, and she went to conservatory overseas, but she ended up in Secaucus. So I was taking lessons with her until high school, because high school became a lot. I was like, I can't do this anymore. But yeah, I was with ABRSM, which is the Associated Board of the Royal Schools of Music, which is affiliated with London. So I was British. I tried to be as posh as possible when doing my exams and vocal trainings and performances with them, but as you can imagine, they're too cool for school, so no one could be as posh as them. But yes, I am classically trained in piano since age 8, to be precise. And yeah, I've been doing that, but they force you to learn theory as well as vocals, so just a large base of musical knowledge.
Okay. Because I think earlier you said that your parents weren't necessarily super supportive of arts, but
no.
So they thought more piano is a hobby interest, something, a good skill.
To be well-rounded.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
College resume, kind of.
But exactly. But even before that, my mom recently told me a story a while back that in Arizona, when we first came here, in Costco actually, they had those keyboards, but like a mini keyboard for like kids. Like, you know what I'm talking about, like the fake, like they're like little mini, and it was actually, you could produce to like, I don't know, like Mary Had a Little Lamb or Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
Presets and all
right,
that.
and I was always dabbling, and I almost took that keyboard right out of Costco. Like without paint, like I literally was just like attached, I was hooked to it, and I think I still have it at home somewhere. I always, any picture that was ever taken of me in my room or my space, what have you, it was always there, so.
There's somewhere in there.
Somewhere in the background.
That's cool. So you play piano, you sing, you rap.
Yes.
And you are now diving a little bit more into the producing side
Indeed.
of making music. I was wondering, who are some of your influences on the producing side of things, or just in general?
Oh God, I feel like a lot of my favorite artists, or rappers specifically, are the ones that rap as well as produce. So to me, it kind of was always hand in hand. Like I think of immediately Tyler the Creator comes to mind, of course. Anyone who knows me would be like, oh, Tyler the Creator.
Oh no, I have more questions about him specifically.
Of course, sure. I'm sure.
It's well known. If you go on our Instagram, it's well known your love and influence.
Yeah. Earl Sweatshirt as well. Honestly, all of Odd Future, just who would I be? I would not be where I am or here today if it was not for Odd Future. That whole collective of musicians, creatives, souls, just multifacetedly talented on so many levels, and production is one of them. Like even Left Brain, like people don't really realize, but Haji and Left Brain, Mellow Hype, like who do you think is doing that production?
Yeah.
Like it's not just coming out of thin air. So.
Yeah, and he did a lot of. I know Tyler mostly produced a lot, but he also did some stuff on Goblin and Bastard and stuff, and kind of all of them, I think.
Yeah. Shout out to Left Brain.
Yeah, dude, an unsung hero.
Indeed.
Had to get a close up on that. Anyway, I've always been curious when, as someone who's producing now, when you're making a song, do you, as you're producing, think of lyrics, or like if you have lyrics in mind, are you like, oh, that would work with this kind of beat, so you make a beat to fit the lyrics?
Yeah.
Or are you more focused on, let me just make a solid instrumental and then get to the lyrics later? Like, how do you, what's your like writing and producing process?
So my production style is all over the place. So I feel like as a classically trained pianist, like my approach to just like putting stuff together, like when I have an upright keyboard like tangibly in front of me, not anything to do with the DAW or like anything digital. Even though the electronic keyboard is a different realm for me, but if I have an upright piano and I could just like come up with chords, the lyrics come to me like that, like it's happening as I'm doing it, and it'll just be ready to go. But with production, like on Logic Pro, I'm sitting there in the trenches in a dark room, and I'm putting together like Apple loops. I'm like, I like how this sounds, let's play Tetris.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I like to describe like producing, especially for beginners. I feel like you have to learn how to play Tetris again. It's like, especially if you color code stuff, it's like, oh, the drums are yellow, and the drums, I just said that.
More drums,
a different drum. Yeah, oh my god, some people's processes, just watching them work, I learned so much, or I'm just humbled to be in their presence, because my process is so like, again, like I said, in the trenches, it's scrappy. I'm still learning. I'm learning every day. It's not exactly at that level. Some people just like, they dive right in. They're like, I'm a digital person. I'm going to put this together. It doesn't even require, I guess, how to me, like doing it on a piano is for them how that their brain works. And it's just fascinating. So definitely a process there.
Is it mostly like chorus and melodies kind of first, and then adding some drums or other things, or maybe does it differ depending?
So I guess the people that like are really heavy into sampling, they would know like really what they're like they sample it, and the sample is the basis of the whole track. Yeah. Whereas for me, I kind of start from scratch. I'm not really a sampler yet. We're learning. Like I said, we're learning. Yeah. But I kind of just start from bare bones, because I do have that background in theory, so I'm like, okay, like, this sounds good, and this sounds good, and you put them together, you have a whole loop And then that loop, I think a lot of rap music at least is based on loops, and hip hop is just so, a DJ is looping things all the time, and yes, it's a full song and there's nuance, but ultimately it comes back to that loop, right? So you can hear it in any track, I think.
How would you describe your music?
Well, I feel like a lot of everything I do comes back to the root of my artist name, which is whatever's at the end of words, like revolutionize.
Oh.
That's what Dashifyze is. So it's IFI at the end of a word and IZE at the end of a word, and you mash those two together. Those two usually mean to become something, to make something. What comes to mind? What's a word that ends in IFI or IZE? I said revolutionize, that's one, but...
I'm drawing a total blank.
Right, like when you need to know a word, it's just completely evading you. But anyway, I mashed those two together. My name itself, Dasha, means gift of God. Because in Russian it's Dar Bozhy, which is like the will of God, like the force of God, the wrath of God, if you want to make it dark. But
Metal.
Yeah, and it also means upholder of the good. And so, you know, Dashifyze, my artist name, is made to become. Like, you can make yourself into anything you want to become. So, you know, I could have something really dark and, like, mysterious one minute and something completely paradoxical and juxtaposing the next. And it could be really uplifting and happy and atmospheric, and then something really moody and dark and, like, oh, like, what are they going through? So it's this really literally coming back to the root of your name, like your essence, and you can truly make yourself into anything you want to become. I think that's the power of art, and as an artist, that's your unique take on that.
Sorry. No, that was like a really good answer.
Smooth, little transition.
No, so I mean, I think that makes sense. I listened to some of your music last night, and then your song, it's Dasha Star's Anthem, right?
Dash Star's Anthem, yeah.
I feel like that really, that song, I feel like encapsulates what you just said about
definitely
being who you want to be, being who you are. Then I also feel like music, especially, is so unique where, yeah, if you're feeling very dark about something, you can make a song that reflects that, and that's a little bit of you. Then it's not always doom and gloom for some people, so then the song is more aspirational or more upbeat, and it's like, that's also you. You know, it's your music is you, I guess, is kind of what I was trying to say.
My first, just going off of what you just said, my first song with the lyrics, it's On the Cusp. And one of the lyrics is perfect, never good enough, perfect. Like, when you perfect something, you're still not good enough. So to come from that as, like, your first like, your intro to the world, to Dash Star's Anthem, is like, whoa, that's, like, a different person. And in many ways it is. Because when I wrote that, made that, I was in a really dark place. I made that, I publicly released music for me, really. I was like, I just need to make this... just get it off, but not just in a private, like, way where it's just like no one's ever gonna hear it. Like, I just need this in the ether of the atmosphere. But Dash Star's Anthem was very intentional. I mean, it came about very like, it just came. Like, I was trying so hard to make something with the beat that I had received, and it just wasn't. And then one day I was like, wait, had a dream, made it happen, really rap it. Like, it really just came together. And then when I sang it, really, like, got into it, I was in this very good space of, like, no, like, you can still achieve, like, keep trying. And it was after all these things, it was like no after things fell through, people let you down, you know, this didn't come to be what it was supposed to have been. And it was like, no, like, your dream is, you wanted to do this and you're doing it regardless of whatever phase of it you're at. Like, there's people who say they want to do something, they'll never do it, they'll never put out a song, and they might really want to with all of their heart, but for whatever reason they didn't. But you did, so that was your dream, and you're making it happen. Like, and it's just, to whatever degree, like, that could inspire the next person to do what they want to do, whether that's music or drawing or painting or whatever people are making, like film, interviews, like whatever, you know?
Yeah. When I was listening to it, it really reminded me, I think, maybe not so much sound-wise, but definitely, like, thematically of Find Your Wings off Cherry Bomb.
Wow.
And
wow,
figured,
that's so humbling.
I
oh my
you'd
god.
Like that. Where I think I'd love to hear it in your own words, and I don't want to try to like
Totally.
answer it for you, but listening to your music, I definitely hear a lot of inspirations from people. I don't want to make it sound like, you know, you're like copying or anything. 'Cause
Totally.
it's not.
Totally.
You know, so I don't want it to come off that way. But like, I hear it and I'm like, okay, if you told me so and so, I'd be like, okay, I see it. Like, I can see that you listen to them a lot and that kind of thing. So actually, that kind of feeds into, you know, who are some of, besides Tyler and Odd Future, who are some of your other inspirations within rap and music?
I feel like it's such an amalgamation of things.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like immediately my response when someone asks me that is just not even rap specifically that comes to mind outside of course, Odd Future and Tyler. It's Radiohead,
Mm-hmm.
it's Nirvana, it's Tame Impala. I always forget Tame Impala, but Tame Impala was actually my first concert that I ever went to.
Cool.
So huge inspirations of not even just their music, obviously, but the way they are about like their craft. Like if you ever hear an interview of Kevin Parker, it's like he's done stuff with like A$AP Rocky, like with Sundress and you know, Radiohead. Just think of the range of their work. Rock and electronic, Kid A, oh my god, like completely shifted the framework of the 2000s. And you know, of course, Nirvana, just grunge, the whole movement, you know, and Kurt Cobain as just like a figurehead, like I think has had an impact on people outside of music, like just as a human being. So
yeah, I totally get what you mean. I think a lot of filmmakers on mine, like if I listen to an interview or something, it's like I maybe am not the biggest fan of their movies, or like maybe that movie didn't, you know, hit me in some way, but it's like you're saying, like what they've done, or just maybe like who they are. And or how they present themselves, you're like, oh, okay, like that taps into or you tap into that somehow.
Also, before I forget, just have to give Mac Miller his flowers, because if there was no Mac Miller, there would be no room for artists like me to exist. As men or women or just anybody who looks like me, is like me, whatever, what have you, like if there was no Mac Miller, there would be no space for folks like me to exist. So just Mac Miller, like, if you're listening, know that. And also Tierra Whack as well. I feel like she's a very specific niche that she fills, that no one else is really doing it like her. And I feel like she's often overlooked or not given enough kudos as much as she should be given. So Tierra, killing the game.
We could spend the whole way over the normal time we spent talking during these interviews on Mac Miller alone. I love Mac. He was
100%.
Dude, he was
a great example of someone beyond music has reached people, because there's people that don't even like hip-hop music, they don't even know anything, they don't listen to it on a regular basis, but they will shout out Mac Miller. They will be like, oh, Mac Miller.
the one celebrity that when I heard died, I actually like felt something. Everyone else was like, oh, bummer, but then I thought it was fake. I like kept Googling it.
I was not well.
No.
I refused to believe it too.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, like the news cycle, like they're lying.
Yeah. I just came home from work, and then that was like the first thing I saw on like Google News. I was like, no way. And then I found out, like my heart sank.
You know, at the time it didn't really stick out to me, but as like time has gone on, you remember like the night before, the day of someone's passing, that really, wow, like you had to take a minute, take a beat.
Yeah.
Mac Miller was one of those, because the night before, such a turbulent time. I was in college, in the midst of it, going through my stuff, as most people in college are.
Absolutely.
Going through something. You're not alone. Anyone in college going through something. I sure felt like an island a lot, and Mac Miller's music got me through a lot. But at that day, or the night before, I went for a run at like 1 a.m. Went for a run. I felt something was just not at rest, but not in a typical way of like, oh, I just need to get out nervous energy. I'm running.
Yeah.
But no, and I saw this sticker on the back of like a stop sign or what have you, and it said "Too shy to rap." I took a picture of it. Didn't think much of it at the time, but looking back, it very much so felt like something significant, especially since I was not making music at the time. I was not even rapping at the time, really. I was rapping in my head, in my notebooks, but I was not, people weren't like, oh, she raps, or like, they make rap music, or hip-hop's their thing. But yeah, and something about that moment, I always go back to. I'm like, no, you was something in the universe, because I'm very spiritual. I believe in all the angel numbers and all the life path things and astrology. I'm like, not for nothing. Like for some, and it's not just that I saw the sticker or whatever. I was on a run. I saw it and I consciously took a picture. I still have it on my camera roll. It was literally the night of. I don't even know the time exactly, but it was like right before, because he'd passed like. It was like 3 in the. It was like something crazy. I was like, wait. Like
I think East Coast time. It was. No, I got off work at midnight, so it was like around. It was like, and I probably I might have found out at like 1 a.m. because I might have, like ate a little afterwards or something. Yeah, it was like midnight 1
I wasn't even
East Coast
consuming
time.
media like at that moment. I was just on a run.
Yeah.
I took a shower, went to bed, woke up the next morning. Everyone posts. I was like, wait. And at the time, I didn't even go back to that photo. Didn't remember I took, because I was consumed, as you often are. But going back now, I'm like, wait. When I first realized that, I don't know, it was like really like did a number on me in a good way. It's just like, no, like people doubt these occurrences, but it's like people say like everything happens for a reason, and I firmly believe that for sure.
What made you then start, or when, and then, but what made you start pursuing music and actually not just having it in your notebooks, but speaking it out?
So the pandemic did a number on everybody.
Absolutely. That's another thing we can talk for hours about.
Totally. But that's not even really what it was. I think the summer before that, before the pandemic summer, which was a whole other thing to talk. Like there's a pandemic, there's that summer.
Part 2 of this interview coming soon.
I was just rejected by everything. Every job, every position, every internship, or until later that summer. So I had like a month and a half, 2 months where I was just kind of home, back in my hometown. You know how it is when you go back from school to your hometown that you like very much so wanted to escape, which is why you did not go to school in your hometown. So you were not trying to go back. And I don't know, I just was like, I have all this. I just started really like posting on, if you're part of the Finsta fam that was there when I had my little private Instagram with like 30 followers. Finsta was such a like end of 2010s, that like 2017 to 2018 I feel like was the height of Finstas, and I was a Finsta girl. Like I was on. If you were on my Finsta, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, that's a whole other discourse. But in very much so that sense of, okay, let me just see what these folks think. Like, people who really know me and really see me. And at first it was a joke. Because I'm like, look at me, look at what... No, like, this is comedy. Like, it wasn't serious. Or maybe I wanted it to be serious, but part of me was, like, a little bashful, a little shy. Or I felt like I respect hip-hop so much that if you're really gonna say you rap or do hip-hop, you really have to do it. You can't just dabble or kind of make, take a little stab at it. Like, it's not a little hobby on the side.
You have to be all in.
Yeah, like, it has to be all-consuming. And at that moment, I just felt like, oh, hee-hee. Like, I like, played characters. Like, I'd put my little hoodie on, I'd put my little hat on, my sunglasses. Like, sometimes I have these crazy sunglasses. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, who is that? And I think it had to be just absurd enough to make me believe in the role I was trying to fulfill, that it wasn't imposter syndrome. Because I feel like a lot of new artists suffer from that. Especially if, like, you're not around musicians, like, you don't come from a musical background in the sense that, like, your family does it, or, like, your friend, or you, like, were in a collective of some sort. Like, it's just you. So I just started, like, these actually were my own beats that I, like, did little loops. I was like, okay, like, I didn't have the brain power to be like, oh, let's just use already established songs. Because, again, I just had so much respect for those artists and those tracks that I was like, I'm not gonna butcher this and be like mediocre, like some sort of like, oh, like if someone heard that, they'd be like, oh, like that was
really
a bit like,
jump on
like
a milli.
Like, you really would have thought. Exactly, like even close friends. So although I will say, I think I did it with one of Kanye's tracks off of Yikes or that album.
Do you think the characters and doing that was a way that if people were like, oh, this is trash, you could be like, oh, it's fine, because it wasn't serious, I was just goofing.
I think
and
that's
it's like a little armor, kind of, it's like a...
Probably.
Theoretical pushback, you were like, oh, that's not even like, I'm not even trying. Like, you're just goofy guys.
Armor for my 21-year-old, very still, I mean, much less insecure than my high school self, but much more insecure than my current self. Of like, we're kind of doing something, but we're kind of not.
Yeah.
Like, maybe, I guess I was like putting feelers out, and then it took people I really respected that were like, wait, that was actually pretty good. Like, maybe they were laughing, but they were also like, wait, that's pretty good. And I feel like I still experience that. Like, people won't give me a shot, or they want to be like, oh, da-da-da, but then they actually listen, and they're like,
Yeah.
Or I have a friend of a friend post something, and then someone from back in the day, or someone adjacently to a network is like, wait, I didn't know you made music, but also, that was pretty good.
Yeah,
like, they don't want to admit it, so it's, like, interesting, and...
But also, you're starting out, of course you're going to be a little insecure, then that only comes with, I feel
practice time, all those good things.
Yeah, I feel like Tim and I, we could talk about that too, like any, and feelers, right? Like, you have an idea for either a song or a short or a poem or a story or whatever, anything creative, and then you're like, I think it's interesting, like, I don't know though,
like, I like
it. You like it, it's like your notebooks, right? It's like, you just have in your notebooks, but then it takes bravery, I think, like, to put it out there, but there's definitely a lot of, like,
that's why
this could be stupid.
It had to be absurd. Like, I had to kind of laugh at. Like, I wasn't laughing at myself. Like, haha, you suck. Like, self-deprecating humor, because I do not subscribe to that anymore. I think that's low vibrational. It is not putting anyone up. It is not encouraging self-esteem. It's just like, hi, I kind of hate myself. But, like, let's make it funny.
Push his hair.
Right, exactly. But for me, it had to be like bombastic enough that I was like, oh, like I stepped into a character or like a persona, and I think every artist to a degree is a persona. Like you have to step into a zone, and you have to like enter, that place. And again, taking inspiration from Odd Future and Loiter Squad, like that's what they did. They played characters, and it became palatable. It became like okay. It's like okay, like I'm really Thurnis Haley right now. I'm bringing my golf clubs. We're going to play golf. And sometimes I'd even do voices.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd even do voices too, and you can hear it in my music. Like I'll have asides where I'm like, like I'll just make little like, hi, like, or I'll be like really low with it, or I'll just say something.
You have a grandpa character.
Yeah, like I have I'm a grandfather in another life.
We need more elderly rap. No?
We need more grandpa power.
We need more grandpas in rap. Yeah. Absolutely.
Get off my lawn rap.
Yeah.
That's what we're branching out.
I meant to ask too, in the day, especially of like streaming, is there really a difference now between album, mixtape, EP? Because I don't know, I watched a video once and someone was like, people I guess tend to say that albums are this length typically. But then you look at back to Mac Miller, like Faces was an hour and a half or something.
Yeah.
But that's a mixtape. And it's like, what is the difference? But is there really even one now? Is it just that album sounds better and more, professional or something?
I feel like it's up to the artist at a certain point to dictate, or the tastemakers of our times to kind of, categorize that, but also like from a technical standpoint, it is length and like how many tracks and the duration. But I feel like as streaming has evolved, or like we don't necessarily feel the need to label everything, it kind of blurs the lines. Like for you might have been a mixtape, for me that was an album. Or like as the career of an artist progresses, you'll look back and be like, oh, that was their first mixtape album ?
Yeah.
Like you don't. And for some it is a mixtape and an album, and their debut album. For some it's like they had that mixtape, then they did their first single, then they did their EP, then they did their long play album debut, and some it's just all together all at once. Like for me, I feel like it's just been a logical little progression, but we're working on this EP. This is what I'm saying. I just want to get back to that place of just having fun, or just releasing this. Not pressure. I feel like everyone has an internal pressure. If you want something to be very good, you're gonna have it anyway. But pressure of just like what it can be, or what you're capable of now, and you're no longer just like just free flowing with it. And it's just like getting back to that. oh, if y'all only knew how many takes I have taken, but we're getting there. We're working on it. It's a solid concept, and I think it'll really hit people in a very genuine, organic way where it's not too personal, but it's not too detached where it can be applicable to just any old thing. But it's like a nice little middle ground.
Okay. Besides the little bit you said, can you tell us anything else about it? Any maybe like
Sure.
overall themes or sounds or anything?
Situationships that have gone wrong. I feel like we can all relate, because what is a talking stage anymore? What does it mean, like, when you're not actually in a relationship with someone, or you're together but you're not together, and how many of those have we all had? And it's 3 tracks, and each track is a letter of, coincidentally, a bunch of people who have just messed me up in some way, and I take accountability. It's not just them, but in the narrative we tell ourselves, it's always the other person who's in they hurt me type of way. So every track is like a letter of a person's name, and maybe they'll hear it no, and maybe they won't, and that's what I meant by it's general enough, but it's specific enough where it's like this middle ground of like relatability, but also like personal to me. But the sound is very atmospheric, it's very vibey, it's very also moody. It's, again, 3 tracks. I think that's the beauty of an EP. You can really explore and just put out, like, feeler. It's a feeler, really. It's like, oh, like, they haven't heard this. They haven't really heard me talk about my mess of a love life before, so... Because I'm usually really private with that stuff. I hold it really close to my heart, and I don't really put too much of it in, but just enough, just a taste that it's universal, because, like I said, who hasn't gone through something like that, and who isn't going through something like that currently? Like, I think it's the story we tell ourselves about other people, is what had happened to us with other people, that maybe it's in the back of your head, and then you map out these patterns. Because I'm a dot connector. I'm always looking to be self-aware, to grow, and like all the things we went through, like you might not have even seen the pattern, but eventually you'll see it if you choose to look. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this is like sequence of snowball effect of people that just did not work out. It's like, why? It's like, oh, oh man. And then you're like, wait, maybe I'm the problem. No, I'm past that.
Maybe it's me.
No, that was on the cusp, Dasha. That's not. I was one of the. It's like, maybe I'm the problem. I'm just an option, so maybe I'm the problem. Like that was like in my head. I'm like, because again, it was coming from this place of everything kept going wrong. So I'm like, yeah, maybe I am the problem. Why bother?
Yeah. I think that's universal. That's relatable.
Yeah.
For sure.
But I'm just not, and I don't think that way anymore. It's like, no, like, we're all a problem. We could be somebody's problem. We could be our own problem. Like, there's no, but that doesn't make you, like, an option. Like, that doesn't mean you should look down on yourself and not be like, no, I'm that person. Like, that's me. I'm him. Like, I'm him. I feel like all these dudes be saying these, I'm him. Like, are you, though? Are you really him? Let us know.
You said earlier that, you like artists that have something, I think you said, like, higher than what they're doing at the time.
A bigger call, a greater calling.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could elaborate on that a little bit, but then also, what is your higher calling and purpose?
The music isn't just music that you're just, like, this goes hard, it's so good, and, like, that's great, that's awesome. Music like that slaps 10 out of 10, but when it really hits something really deep inside that you're like, like, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
That feeling, that to me is artists who have something higher than just, like, their own personal interest calling them to make, or the universe, like, they're using that person and the artist as a channel for, like, the message it wants to relate to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I guess for me, what that is, once again, tying it back to my name, made to become, like, upholding the good, you know? Like, I was a kid, I was always the weird kid, stuck out like a sore thumb in any environment, from wherever you're from, like, your home, like, you're not from here, but you're also not one of us type beat, you know? Like, you're American, but not really. Or, you know, you're new in this school, but when you go back to your old school friends back there, it's like, oh, well, you left, so you're not in the loop.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you're in a room full of people that look just like you, but you don't feel like, something's wrong there.
Yeah.
You know, that's the
Just
whole
on the fringe, I guess.
right. Like you're just not. It's not your people, or you're in a room of people who are completely different from you, and you're also not quite welcome there because naturally that's not your niche either. And that's kind of the concept of made to become. Like you can make yourself into whatever you want to become. Like maybe it's not in this circle, or like you can make your own circle. Like it's like, I feel like that's a common concept these days. It's like if there's no table for you or no door open, like build your own door, build your own table, pull up a chair, like, and it's the spirit of like empowerment, where like you don't have to, you know, depend on others or be a victim of X, Y, Z, A, B, C, when you can transmute your experience to something greater.
To go back, you were talking about, you know, more kind of dark music, and when you're in a negative headspace. When you're in a negative headspace, do you tend to make music that reflects that, or have you made like the opposite, where it's more of like an uplifting song or a more inspirational song, even though as you make it, that's not really how you're feeling?
That's a really good inquiry, I feel like. Yeah, no. Well, for me, I'm just a moody person. I can be really sad, like, at one moment, and 5 minutes later I'm like, I've shifted my perspective. Like, let's go. But I feel like in any case, like, whatever I'm feeling, it's like, it's just in extremes. Like, if it's like a low vibration, it's just not going to be good stuff, or it won't be my best. But if I'm really feeling whatever I'm feeling to the nth degree, like, if it's like the trenches of depression or peak mania, anxiety, like, because mental illness, shout out to you, my girl. We're here.
You well,
The demons are dancing in the room with us. Like whatever I feel it. Like, I really feel it. And that's, I feel like, when my best stuff comes out, because it's real. It's like, it's really just the essence of your humanity, right? You're not kind of, I've never been one to kind of be into something or kind of do whatever, like, you know, half-ass it type of thing. Like, that's also part of the procrastination. Like, I very much live in extremes. Like, I'm either all in on something, or I'm not. I'm one-track minded. Like, I can't I can't do like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So it's back to your point of what do I make when I make it. It's really whatever state I'm in and whatever is flowing through me at the time that comes out. And yes, when I'm like upset, it'll probably be something dark and like angry. But sometimes when I'm really happy, I just want to be subversive, just to stir the pot a little bit. Like, I just have these revelations, like, you know.
On the flip side, though, not in like a phony way, but when you are depressed, I don't like. Has making a less dark trenches song helped at all? Like, not in a phony, like,
No.
I'm bummed, but I'm gonna not, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna pretend I'm not.
No.
Like, in like a, trying to think of like a, you know.
It helps you cope.
Yeah, or like reminding yourself in a way, like when you're in that state, because that's helped me, where it's like, okay, like, this is how I feel, but I know it's not like forever. So in like that sense, but with music,
I mean, that was Dashifyze's anthem. Like, it was like months of like nothing. Like, I had nothing. Like, I had this beat. I kept listening to it on repeat. I was like, I need a hook. I need a chord. I need something. And I decided to sing, really. I originally was not going to sing on that track at all. And then it just, like I said, I was sitting there, I was like, like, what am I thinking about? And it was one of those things where I'm like, no, like, you keep, like, being negative or down, like, no. Like, it was, like, very much so fighting that. It was, like, because I had nobody around at the time who was, like, yeah, like, it was, like, super uplifting, believing in themselves, first and foremost. It was just, like, a dark energy, and I feel like we all go through those phases as humans sometimes where we're just not around, like, good people. We're not around the right energies we're supposed to be around. Like, they're just not on our level, vibration, what have you, and it can put you in a dark place. Like, you might want better, like, be in a better headspace, but because you're the product of your surroundings or who you surround yourself with, like, you're nosediving, and you're like, wait, like, where is the joy of life?
Yeah.
And so I just was coming up with these lyrics that were very like, okay, but like, you know, and like you said, not in a fake way, like, oh, just be happy, because I do not subscribe to toxic positivity. Like, no, that is not my brand. I'm very much like, hey guys, really going through it, like, just had a mental breakdown, didn't eat for 3 days, but we here. Like,
How
I'll
are
tell
you?
you.
Yeah.
I'll let you know, you know, because I think if you can't let people know like that, there's a certain layer that's, like, missing, you know what I mean? Like, people can't connect to someone who's like, I always have it together. I did my exercise, I did my skincare and my exercise regimen, and I'm eating perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
My planner is organized. I have all my stickers, like...
Everything is alphabetized and color
Who's
coded.
gonna relate to that?
Yeah.
I don't.
You wonder, like, how? Like, did you
They have an assistant.
were you from a tube and you just, like, arrived at the day, like, that is today? Like, as a full-grown human? Like, how'd that happen?
Some people were blessed with good brain chemistry,
I
I
guess
suppose,
so.
or balanced brain chemistry. I don't know if there's good or bad brain chemistry, but some of us were not blessed with that. But anyway, but an assistant, anyone needs an assistant, let me know.
My final question is, where do you hope to be in 5 years?
Wow, I feel like that is such a bumblebiz question, and not for any reason, but everyone I've networked with anywhere, like that's like old, especially like a bit old, like not old people. No one's old.
I think that's like an old interview question.
Yeah, it's like people in their 30s and 40s, like more established in their careers. They're like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Yeah, like
no, I just mean like what
will you fix my spectacles?
What do you hope to? Yeah, like what kind of goals do you have for the next 5 years? I guess that's the better question.
Yeah.
Is like what kind of goals do you have for the
And I meant that in such a positive, like affirming way, because I just remembered an answer I would give, or like a phrase where I was like, I want to be a creative powerhouse, like multi-hyphenate. Yeah, I want to be a multi-hyphenate powerhouse. I will be a multi-hyphenate powerhouse. Can we speak?
That's all we've been. This is an interview. This is all we've been doing.
Truly, just a little stumble. We're working through it. Multi-hyphenate powerhouse, and they were like, "Wow." I feel like that always struck people as if that's
like a buzzword.
That's some crazy. Yeah. No, but it's like haven't heard people describe that. That was like I created this term. Like that was my thing. Like I'm a multi-hyphenate powerhouse, and they were like, oh, "What does that mean?" Like, please explain. I'm like, listen, girl, I'm 24 years old. I can't answer. I just have these concepts and belief in myself. That's all I meant with that. Because I feel like in an interview or when someone in person is asking you that, like for a job, it's like you have to rattle these off. Like you can't really sit there like, Whereas if it's like a text, you can really like take years and hours to like marinate it. But yeah, I just like, that was my go-to answer. And I feel like it's very much so in the spirit of my favorite artist, like Tyler the Creator. I'm always gonna give that man his flowers, because again, I would not be here, like, period, like, existing alive without that man's existence. So he's a multi-hyphenate powerhouse. Like, he does clothes, and he, like, directs things, and he makes music, but he's not just rapping over it, he's, like, making the music, right? And beyond that, he's like a public figure, and he's like a comedian, and he does Loiter Squad stuff. Like, what doesn't this man not do? And it's not like he'd like ever fail. Like, he's never like, oh, that was a miss, bro. Like, his stuff is always selling out. He's only gotten better. Like, his trajectory is just up and up. Like, this man is winning awards. He's being recognized. Like, people that used to reject him are now recognizing him or coming back. They're like, oh, my bad, dude. Like, we were wrong. Like, you're actually... Like, come back to us, like... So,
I know you have done, like, a lot of modeling. Is, like, fashion something you're looking to get into? Is directing something you're trying into?
Definitely. I mean, I feel like...
An album out in a couple of years, maybe?
Literally. That's always the goal. I feel like an artist or a musician is always cooking up something, or they're always a friend recently said this to me once. They were like, music is always working. It's just the work that you have to do to survive gets in the way of the music until that becomes your means to an end to survive. But yeah, we always have something. I mean, obviously, I want to have an album out ASAP. I want to have this EP out ASAP. It will be out this season, this winter season. I want to under-promise and over-deliver versus the opposite. I feel like that's good practice.
That's smart,
for anyone. But yeah, definitely. Anyone I feel like who makes things or is like an independent artist, you are the director. Like, you're directing your whole career, you're marketing your stuff, and you're putting it out, and you're finding new creative ways to present yourself, or, you know, modeling as well. Like, I've never walked a runway per se, or been in like a fashion week, or like been on that like platform yet, but you know, to get to that point you have to put yourself in a light that people, I don't know, not even take you seriously or like legit, but it's like it has to have a level of like, oh, like that's cool or that's good. It makes people want to see more. And if you know yourself and your own angles and how to like situate the tripod, people are like, who took those? I'm like, I did. Yeah. I did a self-timer shoot, and I'm not sorry. And it's just like, but it's like, to me, people can perceive whatever they want to perceive, whatever your goal is in their eyes, but you know what you're doing it for, and maybe you can inspire the next person. Like, hey, like, you don't need to hire a photographer. You don't have to have the fanciest camera. It doesn't have to be professional. It could be, we all got one of these. We all got an iPhone. Maybe not one of these, you know, but
with the butterfly and the stickers.
Yeah, or like, I don't know, iPhone 13. I feel like people, they put all this stuff in their heads about equipment, right? Like, we need pristine quality off the bat, right from the get-go. But that's not gonna. Everyone starts somewhere, and you just have to use what you have and make the most of it. And eventually, the work will show itself. So, and speak for itself. That's what I always say. The proof is always in the pudding. I don't even make pudding like that. I don't know how to make pudding. Never made it, but the proof is in it. The proof is in it.
But we're gonna learn, because we can.
We'll learn how to make the pudding.
Yeah.
We will. Chefing up. So.
Thank you so much for doing this. This
Thank
was
you.
really great talking to you. This was awesome. And I really look forward to the music you make and everything else.
Thank you. I do too. I can't wait for my own music.
What is your favorite Tyler the Creator album?
Oh my god.
You don't have to go into necessarily why, but if you want to just say, this is it, deal with it, or if you want to give an explanation, that's
because if you said song, that honestly is easier than album for me.
Let's do song first, but then...
Sure. Song, Answer.
Oh, wait, well, that was off Goblin, right? No, that was Wolf. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a great one.
Yeah, and I was just really sad. I'm studying for the SATs. It was dark in my room. Nobody was home, and I was just playing this at full blast. And I was like, it was just so soothing. And I know he was talking about like his dad and that
it's
instance.
a very melodic song, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just very like, my brainwaves were like, okay. But it was also, to me, it was more than just an answer for him, his dad. For me, it was like an answer from the universe. It's like, when I call somebody, I hope they answer. I mean, I hope I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I hope this pays off, because I feel lost in this world. I feel lost in the sauce. Like, what are we doing? What is happening?